The real question though is, what was Joseph's secret? How out of the worst of circumstances did he position himself to receive from God? Maybe you don't know the story of Joseph, but maybe you can relate to asking the question, how could God ever use me? How could God do anything with the mistakes and failures that I've made? Is this struggle ever going to end? Or maybe you're thinking, my life just seems ordinary. How on earth could God do something extraordinary with me? Well, Jacob is Joseph's dad, and Jacob's on his deathbed, and he begins in chapter 49 to pronounce a blessing on all of his 12 sons. So Jacob says of Joseph in this poetic way, he says, Joseph is a fruitful vine, meaning Joseph produced fruit in his life. We know what this means, right? It's not that he was a fruit farmer. It was that he grew in maturity throughout his walk with God, that he had a positive impact on the people around him. More importantly, by the way that he lived, by the way that he served, by the way that he was generous, by the way that he talked, people came to know who Joseph's God was. God, what fruit are you producing in me? God, what are you growing in my life right now? He was a fruitful vine planted near a spring. As Haydos said last week, as he unpacked the story of Jacob, that we personally are called to pursue a personal relationship with God. Because how many people know that you don't need to water a plant beside a river? It's futile, right? But Joseph, again, he had every excuse, every opportunity to say, well, nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows I'm here. My circumstances don't look like God is with me, so maybe I deserve to do what I want. Yet what Joseph held was something called integrity. Integrity. When no one was watching, when no one apparently cared for Joseph, Joseph remained faithful. So we can be tempted by these thoughts that say, well, my life, it's going so well. So what does it matter anyway? I mean, isn't going so well. So what does it matter anyway? I've already stuffed up. And maybe that might be true, but I know from personal experience, the depths and the even lonelier feeling of shame that will grip us, even if nobody knows. And yet I also know the strength that comes from knowing that through Christ, we are more than conquerors. In the scripture, it says, Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring whose branches climb over a wall, which is just a poetic way of Jacob saying to his son that he was a blessing when he was blessed. Joseph was generous when he had little, and Joseph was generous when he had plenty. You would think that people tend to be generous when they have a lot of resources. But the truth is, more often than not, you'll find generosity in people that are struggling, that actually have compassion and empathy for others, that give, and not out of a place of plenty necessarily, but out of a heart of generosity. And at this point, you might be like, cool, Josh, 3 little points to make us successful. 3 little points to be successful, but you got to know, church, that following Jesus isn't about being successful. We don't come to church for 3 points to make us feel good or be blessed. Because following Jesus isn't a formula. Following Jesus isn't even a religion. Fruitfulness, faithfulness, blessing, it's all about, it all comes from, it's all empowered by a relationship with God.